who's turning on their cameras. Zara, do you want to introduce me, or are we still waiting for?
We can wait maybe 2 more minutes, but I'm gonna tell a few more things that the girls need to know. So, hi, welcome to the last day of the first part of the Flux project. So great to see you back for another day of this wonderful project. I hope you got the email. I sent you the information about the other segment of the Academy, which is next week, and in the week after that, which is organized by Meet. And there's 5 workshops by Eleonora, so just keep that in mind so you don't miss it. I put it in your Google calendars. If you have any questions about it, contact either me or Thelma. She's from Meet, so she can tell you maybe a bit more in detail. I also attached the schedule, and I attached the little explanations of each workshop, so you can see what it's going to be about. And yeah, for today's day of the Academy, we have 2 amazing presentations. The first one is from Damir Firšt, which is Mastering Storytelling in Immersive Environments. There's going to be a lot of interactive parts, so keep your cameras on, join in with your microphone whenever you want. And yeah, after Damir, there is going to be Klara Kovacevic, and she's one of the girls from Alice in Blockchain. She's an amazing strategist from Google, so stick around for that. She starts at 7. So yeah, Damir, whenever you're ready, we can start.
Brilliant. I'm gonna wait for a bit longer because I'm trying to set up my multiple windows.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so all right. So first of all, I want to ask you guys, how was the rest of the first week? Did you learn a lot of stuff? Did you find out something new?
Yes, it was overwhelming.
Hey, thank you for joining in. That's awesome. Awesome. Tamara is awesome. I'm really glad that you're talking. So what was overwhelming about the rest of the stuff that you saw and learned?
For me, it was like a whole new world because I'm new in digital art, and I have a lot of idea. My fantasy is like 100-200% on. I just need new tools, new experiences, new people that can show me the way on my next path. So it was really like yes, now I have to go through all the things I've learned and find out what to do next or how to start. So yeah.
Right. Do you already have some ideas?
Yes, I have some ideas, but I just have to first to fulfill this workshop. Then I have to sit down and have my notebook and start writing all the things that are coming, and then I have to like move all that is not necessary and like find the right path, because I don't want to get lost in all the new things.
Well, things are moving very quickly, and there are many new technologies that you can choose from, which are relatively easy to use, but there might be a barrier from what I've had. Like, I experienced this in my time using different kind of tech. Sometimes there's too many things, but then also there are some things that are so useful that I kind of bit the bullet and went into it. I hope you can as well, and I hope that this is not going to overwhelm you. We're here to show you what we know and share what we know and potentially spark some like incredible things for you guys, because this is for you.
I think overwhelming is good. I don't think it's bad.
Okay.
So I was also overwhelmed yesterday with Bay Becker and the things she told us. and it kind of opens my mind to new things. I had a kind of prejudice against this, like meta worlds and gaming aesthetics. Although I am a digital artist, I originally was a traditional artist into watercolor, acrylics, but I've been for more than 10 years a digital artist, and in 2022, I started minting NFTs here in Berlin with the NFT Club Berlin. But what I've been hearing in this course that I find interesting is that it's all about building communities, and I failed in that. So I didn't go very much far because I couldn't build communities. And also because of the bear market, I was kind of with the feeling that I had come to the NFTs at the end of the party. But so I decided to give a new chance with this course of getting into NFTs again.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading about come back in a different way, and people that have been insisting on it. And so I want to give it a try again. And I'm finding this course very interesting, all the new insights and points of view. And I'm very much looking forward to your class because I think not only building communities is everything, but storytelling is everything.
Oh, this is where we agree. Thank you, Sonia, for also saying your piece. I'm really glad, and I would love to hear more about your experiences at some point in the class, especially people who already did some minting, who tried new technologies to try to do the things that are currently impossible. So I myself, one of the things that I studied was art history. So I was involved with a lot of artists since I was a student, and a lot of people who went to the Academy of Arts. So it's always nice to see kind of like people picking up new things, but obviously also not losing sight of watercolors, of oil painting, of sculpture, of all the classic traditional art branches of art and ways of creating art. Because the things that we're looking at here are an addition. They will never supplant and replace the things that we already know and want to experience in physical reality. And also, this is one of the things that I want to talk about later. So thank you for that, Sonia. Okay, so I feel like maybe we should now start for real. So maybe Zara, if you're going to be later taking this video, you can cut from here and we start from here. And I'll introduce myself.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, cool. So welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here with you for the Flux project. I feel very honored that I'm one of the people who is able to share some of my knowledge and experience in the tech world, in the gaming industry, and in the art world as well. So today we're going to be talking about how do we master storytelling in immersive environments. And first of all, let's talk a little bit about what the actual goal of this project is. And Flux on its website says that the aim is to develop, present, and promote female digital creativity through a training and exhibition program. So for me personally, this is something that I can't relate to directly, but through my experiences with people, I kind of understand that obviously this is something that always needs it needs to be stimulated in ways, it needs to be backed in ways. And I'm very happy to be here. And I would love to hear your experiences about what it means to be a female artist, what it means to create in this kind of environment, especially now in this time where we have so many new things happening, so many new technologies, so many new ways to be exposed, to build community, to work on the story of what we are doing. So it's I welcome you to interrupt me. I love comments. I would enjoy criticisms. I would love to hear anything that you guys think about or are not clear about. So please raise your hands or just jump in and ask. Okay. All right, so a little bit about me. Who am I? So my name is Damir, and right now I'm a technology investor. I'm a startup founder. I'm a consultant who is specializing in experience design, in human interaction within immersive spaces. And now this is something that we can, it's going to be hard to define because there are so many things that we could consider being immersive. So I've been working for almost a decade in the intersection of narrative, of gaming, of XR, and I've developed game titles that were popular in Asia. In Europe, we had a mobile game that I worked on as a narrative designer for a couple of years, which had around 7 million daily users, #1 game in Turkey. In 2021, I co-founded an AR studio, which was creating digital toys and pets in shared augmented reality. We raised $7 million for it in the hype of 2021, in the second part of 2021. Is anybody here into crypto? Do you remember those times?
No.
No. Magda knows. Awesome. So it was a really interesting time, and there was a lot of hype about the metaverse, and then it died off. Sonia, you said earlier that you tried to develop some NFTs, so you probably know a little bit about that whole metaverse craze, right?
Yes, and that was in 2022. So it's recent.
Yeah, fairly recent. Did anybody else here mint? Did you guys mint NFTs?
Some of us minted, some not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
We also did Andrea Šarić and Dora Bilandžić in Crystal Clean project. We minted some photos, and it went experimental.
Okay, when you say experimental, you mean with the method of
nobody, like, we minted some pieces and gave it to some people who bought our real art, like printed photography.
Mhm.
And we gave them the NFT for free. So it was hard for them to like understand the like how could they take the NFT. So it was hard for people to understand and to chew. Like it was a lot for them.
Yeah, a lot for them. Yeah. Well, this is also partially part of the whole storytelling strategy is who is your target audience? Who are you speaking to? Who are the people who you want to engage with? Do they already know something about it? Do they need to be educated about what you guys are doing? And it's also very important to figure out who that is before you start making the work. And I know that you being creatives, sometimes there's a big resistance about it. Christina, I see you, one moment. So there's a big resistance about sometimes doing that, but also it kind of helps you target, zone in on what you want to do and like who are you trying to communicate with? Yes, Christina, go ahead. Christina, your sound is off, but your audio, sorry, your audio is off, but your camera is on, so we can't hear you.
Okay, you hear me?
Hey, yes.
Okay. So I participated in one project. It was by a company. It was titled NFTs. It was connected with breast cancer. Okay. And I joined that project and made some NFTs. They were sold. I think 2 of them were sold. And the rest of the money, I don't know how many people joined that project. I think around 30 or something like that.
Raised like 30 artists?
Money. Artists, yes.
Okay, cool.
And I know that for one artist, I think one NFT was sold, I think 10 times. Mine was twice. So yes, well, it was great, but after that, I don't have any other experiences.
Okay, well, that's it's really interesting to hear, and from what it sounds like, it seems like a cool group of people. And you know, if you can sell your work more than once, I guess it's already a little bit of a success. Not being an artist myself, I don't know. You guys tell me.
Well, I started off with it was this exhibition. What can you see?
If
I
you
don't
go a
think you
little
can
bit,
see.
if you put it closer to your face, it's probably going to work because you have,
No, it's blurry.
yeah, it is blurry. You have the blur.
Oh, now
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, go ahead.
So it was called Between Worlds. It was in the Assisi Panorama Berlin, and it was a collaboration of NFT Club Berlin and Solana. So around 30 artists were selected, and they were all almost kind of first timers. So they took the artist by the hand, and they minted for us. And I had 5 works, and I sold 3 immediately in the first night, in the night of the opening. But then I didn't sell anymore after that. And I was exhibiting several times with NFT Club Berlin. But then, as I said, was the marketplace that I minted, the works were minted, was called Form Function. It closed. There was another space here in Berlin that was very interesting called Displace Berlin, and they work with Tezos and not Solana. And I went there, and I did also an exhibition with NFT Club Berlin and Displace, and they closed. And I had the impression that, well, as I said, I was coming in the end of the party, so I stepped back. But I had success at the beginning, and I thought it was very interesting. But I had problems with this. As a traditional artist, I wanted to make one of a kind. I didn't want. I wanted to make one NFT and not 100. And I was interested in the thing of the royalties and how you could have the NFT to have your traditional work and maybe sell already also the prints and things like that. And I didn't see it come out like that. What I saw, it was like more like collectibles. People want just to have the communities, the collectibles, and not really, you don't have a link between the art, the real art, like the digital. You have I was very interested in having this link with the real world and the digital. And I was kind of let down a bit. And recently, in January, I did a course with Hug. You must know Hug, Hug.xyz. And I did a course with them on artificial intelligence. And I started working in collaboration with artificial intelligence. But I never minted anymore in NFTs.
I see.
And I'm finding this thing of artificial intelligence, collaborating with artificial intelligence, very interesting. And it's also very controversial. So then I saw this course of Flux course, and I found it interesting, and here I am. So I'm open to new things.
Brilliant. Well, let's get into it then. Thank you, Sonia, for sharing. One of the other things that I was working on in the past is also AI innovation. I even started a company here that's doing AI courses in Croatian language. So it's to onboard you, even if you don't know how to turn on the computer, on how to use ChatGPT. One of the reasons why we wanted to do that here in Croatia is because we want to help the people from our country to start learning this tech in a way which is very palatable and easy to use, because one of the biggest barriers to any kind of narrative is complexity. So it's really important that we keep it as simple as possible. I also invested into some STEM research and STEM toys specifically. I'm a guest lecturer at the Cognitive Science Center here in Zagreb. It's a new course, a new master's degree between the Faculty for Humanities and the electrical engineering course, electrical engineering faculty, which is quite interesting. I have also been playing D&D for almost 30 years. Has anybody here ever played role-playing games? Somebody's cooking. Okay, that's cool. We have a person who's cooking and doing this. Okay, so yeah, I'm a big fan of role-playing games and immersive environments which don't require tech. I also perform as a storyteller on stage, and also I do LARPing, which is live action role play. So this is again role playing, but dressed up in certain kind of costumes and having certain kind of scenarios that we do. Each person plays a character, and then they have their own goals, motivations, and then we have 20, 30 people, 50 people, 100 people, and each one of them plays a character. And then when they do, we have the story unravel, because most people, they have different tasks or they have a conflict which was designed so that this way we get more interactivity. So these are just some of the things that I'm doing, but basically all of it starts from and stems from storytelling. Storytelling is one of those things that people talk about in the business environment, and they also talk about it in an artistic way. And I feel like there's a lot of overlap there, but today what we're going to be focusing mostly on is how is storytelling actually helping us shape something, a narrative that we want to use. So be it for your art, be it for community building, be it for even your own life, this is something that you can definitely benefit from. So we all know this delicious feeling of being swept into a story world. You forget about your surroundings and you're entirely immersed. So this is a quote from Liz Neely, who is doing something very cool. So they have a NGO which does stories which promote science. I personally love this quote because it's from a person who is not maybe a traditional storyteller, not from a person that's just doing it for the art of it, but also for promoting something really important, and that is education and science. And here's the thing. The world is built on stories, really. So stories, they invoke, in days long gone, stories invoked awe and wonder about the world. They had a metaphysical function. One of those metaphysical functions was creating myths about how things came to be. Can anybody give me an example of a story which has a metaphysical function? And again, there are no wrong answers here. So I would welcome any kind of input from you guys. You can write it down if you want to.
I mean, there's from Greek mythology, Slavic mythology, Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many examples.
Yeah, so pantheons, mythologies from different parts of the world, which talk about the origin of, how the world came to be, how good and evil came into the world. All of these things we explain through stories. And one of the things about storytelling and stories in general is that myths are these memes, these ideas, these viral ideas that spread. And when they do, they give us explanations about the world and they make it less unknown. And this has multiple different functions for humans. One of those being to calm us down and kind of make sure that we kind of feel that there's causality in the world and that things happen for a reason. One of the other things is having to explain the natural order and creation of the world. So cosmological function, which is, again, most of these pantheon stories, they definitely have that very, very much like in the root of why they exist. One of the third function is to demonstrate societal norms and proper social order. This is a sociological function. So can anybody give me an example of a story which demonstrates societal norms and proper social order?
Well, the children's stories, like all the Greens, Brother Green's stories, they have this.
Mm-hmm. So what is it about these stories that the children are supposed to learn about?
I don't know about dangers of Little Red Hood. It's about the wolf. It's about the dangers in
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah, don't go into the woods, right? Don't go into the woods alone. Follow the path. Don't talk to wolves, right? So yeah, exactly. So a lot of it has this like educational value, which has been spread like from one generation to the other, right? And then finally, it defines acceptable behavior and guide you how to live a happy life. So it has a pedagogical function. So can you give me an example of that? What would be a story which tells you how to live a happy life?
Pinocchio one.
Okay, so what is it that Pinocchio is supposed to learn?
Well, that he cannot lie in life.
Shouldn't lie.
I mean, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, he shouldn't lie. Yeah.
Yes, but he went to like different paths to learn that.
Yeah, exactly. So he went through trials and tribulations. He went through this hero's journey, right? So there's a certain there are certain beats to storylines that we're also going to discuss in a minute. So excellent. Thank you so much for the examples. Right?
And it's also interesting how around the world the stories are similar. When my daughter was small, I bought a fairy tale book around the world, and there were stories from different parts, and they had similar plots.
Exactly. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Thank you so much. This is also really very much an important piece of it. So also, I just want to make sure that you know, so when you get the presentation, each one of these underlined titles is a link. So like you'll find a lot of material here if you're interested in digging deeper. So yes, storytelling has defined us as a species culturally and also on a personal level since we started using language. So stories and storytelling predate written language. One of the things that in the dead of night, when I have too much to think about, then I think about how many stories have we lost, how much of the music and the art, which was performative, which existed before we had any way to record it, like how much of that was lost. And probably it's over 90%, for a long time, from the Paleolithic age up until the time we started writing. So here's the thing. It seems that the human brain is hardwired to enjoy, respond to, and create stories. And we're going to go into literal physiological effects that storytelling has. So it's used for almost anything. Religions are using it. Political parties are using it. Companies are using it. And also social groups are also using it to tell stories to promote their ideas, right? So for instance, you are all artists here, right? So how many of you, when you said that you wanted to be artists, your family was like, amazing, do that. That's going to be a great life.
No.
Yeah. Right. So there is this
kind of.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Me kind of, because my mom is an artist and my great uncle is an artist. So it was kind of fine with everybody.
That's awesome. You're very lucky. You're very lucky because most of the people that I meet are like Sonia. So good for you, Yelena. You have a really great.
My family. I was wanted to go into arts, and my family was like, go into architecture because it mixes art and engineering, but I think you can make a living out of that. So my daughter, she's a ballet dancer, and I told her, go after your dreams, and she went.
That's awesome. That's really, really great. Yeah. So these are the kind of things that kind of influence us, maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously, but effectively you can think of them as these kind of like entities that go through our minds and take up RAM. They take up space in our minds, and then these stories are the stories that we tell ourselves about us, about other people. So basically, obviously, it's a really good tool to learn how to master, right? So what are some stories that companies use? And I want to hear from someone else, from Sonia, because I love the engagement, but I want to hear from someone else, maybe from Lucia. Lucia, like what is a story that the company uses?
From the top of my mind.
Mm-hmm. If somebody else has an idea, jump in.
If I think of something, I'll say.
Okay, cool. Anybody else?
Yes, the companies who want to sell the products they are like offering us like a perfect thing we need to buy.
Right. Okay.
So they are making our needs, that we need something they want to sell.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they're tapping into the subconscious and creating needs from our desires. Here's the thing, right? Stories influence our emotions, right? The narrative influence how we experience reality. And this is a very, very powerful thing. How does storytelling affect the brain? Physiologically, right? So let's first define what the storytelling experience is. It's an immersive experience that transports listeners to another time and place. So it triggers physical responses like heart rate changes, like facial expressions, like getting red in the face, sweating, etc. Right? Why do people go and watch horror movies? Right? They know that they're going to be scared, but they want it. Right? A specific type of person enjoys being scared. Right? So when we listen to a story, we sync up with what is happening in the story. So the stories activate the language processing in our brains, the limbic system, the emotional circuits, movement-related areas, and also what happens is we synchronize with the person who's telling the story. So the listener brainwaves sync with the storytellers. They also the heart rate synchronizes. So it's phenomenal to see that there is so much synchronicity happening between people who are sharing an experience. And also, I believe this is one of the things that we crave the most, right? So if any of you ever experienced, unfortunately, some kind of an addiction, there's a lot of research in addiction that says the opposite of addiction is connection. So it's creating bonds with other people, social connections with other people, which helps us not need to go into the space of consuming something too much. So we can kind of conclude that it's about enhancing understanding and emotional connection. Now, when we tell a story, what we can do is we can plant emotions in the listener's brains and we can activate the same brain areas, right? So from sounds to the movements, we can actually synchronize. And if we engage with our audience, we create something called a social contract. And a social contract is a term from social sciences, which says that it's a quid pro quo, it's reciprocity. If I do something for you, you do something for me, right? And actually, in anthropology, if we look at the very first ways humans connected, it was through some sort of reciprocity. And a lot of the ancient cultures, before they had any kind of currency system, before they had any kind of value system, David Graeber, a really amazing thinker and anthropologist, says that it's about debt, that people kept a ledger mentally in their minds of debt and favors that they owe, right? So it wasn't about like how much you owe. It was also about what is the proportion that we owe each other something of, right? So for instance, Tamara, if I give you a bottle of wine and I tell you, oh, it's €100 bottle of wine, but I really wanted you to have it, right? Like next time when I ask for a favor, I don't need to mention the bottle, but somehow you will know that, you know, maybe somewhat you owe me a little bit. And that's how a lot of our core relationships work, right? We keep like a mental ledger of like how we owe each other certain things. So this is the type of social contract, right? And in it, we kind of create stronger bonds, right? It builds trust and it goes both ways. And this storytelling effect that you can see here is that if you talk about something only in facts, you will not engage parts of the brain which get lit up when you tell a story. So if you have something that's unknown, then it's not going to be enough for you to get it. But if you take the future that's unknown and use an example, like I just did with the bottle of wine, then you start kind of understanding what it is. And that's kind of how you can approach in creating experiences as well.
Sorry, Damir.
Yes.
I think that this example with a bottle of wine that's worth $1,000 is not a good example.
Okay.
Really, because you could say, I think this is a bottle of wine from some special vineyard in where they pick grapes in like some, I mean, to tell some story and not to say the worth of it, because I mean, I would say you're an idiot. I don't owe you anything. I won't accept this bottle of wine. And if you tell a story about it, then
against the wall.
Huh?
You will smash the bottle against the wall if I tell you it's 100 euros.
Like you want me that I owe you something, and I wouldn't probably.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, that's a great point, but you know, I would be a total psycho if I was like, hey, here's this 100 euro bottle of wine. You know, I would maybe mention it later in passing, right? Or again, it depends on our relationship. Maybe, yeah, exactly. So like, you know, you love tasting wine from different parts of the world, and you know, I go to like let's say Santorini, and I say, oh, this is a bottle of wine from Santorini. Probably impossible because there's no wine there. But you know, I tell you a little bit of a story, and again, yeah, you get engaged, right? So, or I went to the Napa Valley, and they had like an amazing, me and my girlfriend were driving down the vineyard, and there was this man who was sitting in a tree, and he was drinking a bottle of wine, and we were really tired, and we sat down with him, and then he gave us a cup, and then after that, he told us, actually, I have only 30 bottles of this year, and I would love to share it with you, right? So maybe this would be something that engages you, right? But like the point is, there is a certain type of quid pro quo that happens when we share something with other people, right? How do you become a great storyteller, right? Like it's about changing perspectives. It's about stories that actively participate, the stories you can actively participate in, and then if you feel them physiologically, and if they vibe with you, which is exactly what you, Lucia, just said, right? So if I pinpoint the wrong motivator, then like I lose connection. But if it's the right motivator, then what happens is we can shift each other's beliefs and attitudes in a non-confrontational way, right? So it really impacts our life. So it impacts, like the stories we tell ourselves about why we need to be healthy. You know, is it about because we're getting older and we have some sort of chronic disease, or is it about feeling energetic? I think you understand, right? So here we have an example of a Google ad from, I think, 2006, which I found really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. So let's listen to this, and please let me know. Please put a thumbs up if you can hear the sound. Okay.
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ, लंगोटिया यार सी मेरा। लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाप बहादुर के जमाने। रोज शाम को हमने वहां पतंगे उड़ानी, और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ के दुकान से झझरिया चुरा के खानी। झझरिया? मेरा साहब नमस्ते। मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली। गली फिर सकूं दे फांदे, छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे। हेलो, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। फासिल स्वीट्स। हाँ जी। दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है। हेलो, यूसुफ अंकल। कौन? जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से, आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती। याद है बचपन में आप दोनों झझरिया चुरा के खाते थे? बचपन की गली फिर सकूं फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे। पतंग सा उड़ता था पर की तरह, परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह एक दौर था, मन मन मोर था। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था ऑडिशन के वक्त हम तो रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए यूसुफ जी बढ़िया था अभी क्या दौर था मन पे न जोर था एक दौर था मन मन मोर था एक दौर था मन मन मोर था जी बर्थडे यार
All right. I would love to hear your opinions about this.
I'm basically crying.
Crying, yeah?
Yeah. Even in the Zoom, like screen through the screen, but still, it's so strong and that's crying. Yeah.
It's pretty cringy. It's got, you know, like all the soft rom-com and drama tropes, and yet it works, right? Like somehow it works.
Exactly.
Even a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
why is that? Like it's there because it's engineered, you know, and it's Google, you know, that's exploiting people in certain countries, and you know, still it works because we get triggered by this stuff because it's you know it's the primordial human experience in a way, and very very useful tool, right? Any other comments? Okay, anybody else want to do any comment about this video? Okay, then let's move on. So why does this matter to you concretely? Everything we think about is a constructed narrative. We have a cognitive bias. We have many. One of them is called survivorship bias. Survivorship bias says, oh, everything happened the way that it should have, right? And if you succeed, then you write a book about how you succeeded and you say, follow these steps and the same thing is going to happen to you. It doesn't, right? It's really nice to listen to biographies or read biographies of other people and other people's successes, but technically there is a lot of things that we can't really copy every time, right? But because we are storytelling machines, we kind of like, we spew out, we regurgitate stories all the time. And we do it because we simply think like this. If you see a cat head and then a fence and then a tail, what do you assume? You assume it's the same thing, right? It's just how we work. So when we do business storytelling, what we do is we communicate to our target audience, to the people that we want to engage with us, that we are talking to them directly when we are offering them something that they need, right? And in business, it's usually solving a problem, right? So in a very simple terms, like what you're going to do is you're either going to make people more happy or less unhappy, right? So if they use Google to find their long lost friend that they couldn't find in any other way, that's making them more happy. If you're buying insurance if you're buying life insurance, then you're making yourself less unhappy, right? And here's the thing, like when you think about yourself, you should think about the story that you tell about yourself, right? And what does your story represent about you? So what sets you apart? What works in your favor? It's kind of like writing a CV. So if you write the CV in the right way, you will hit the right keywords and you will have a more engaged audience, let's say it like that. It's really interesting because this is the exact same thing that we do in anything, and also in immersive design. Steve Jobs is here, terrible human being, amazing marketer. When the Think Different campaign came out, he talked about not the speed or the size of the hard disk or any of the components. He talked about the feeling. He didn't say, oh, we have like 128 gigabytes of RAM, which can fit this much data onto our player. He said, I will put 1,000 songs in your pocket. And it's simply the same thing, but we communicate in a very different way. All right, again, like just to kind of underline, without the story, you have only an unknown future. With the story, you have a sense of a known experience, and then like you seal it. You can slam dunk your story. Let's talk a little bit about narrative structures. Before I do that, I just want to check with Zara. When do we take a break?
We can take it now.
Yeah, okay. So let's stop here for how long?
5 minutes.
Is 5 minutes okay for you guys? Yeah? Okay. See you back in 5. All right, and I'm back. Jump in when you want. All right, so most of us are back. Give me a thumbs up or a wave or something so that I know that you guys are here. Awesome. Okay, brilliant. Okay, here. Great, excellent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about narrative structures. A lot of storytelling that happens with a very, very strong sense of structure in it. And writers, people who write screenplays, they all understand this, and there are many blueprints here. And now we're going to get to what Sonia mentioned before, which is some stories which are similar across different cultures. Have you guys heard about the hero's journey?
Yeah, like Joseph Campbell's idea of archetypes and an archetype of a hero, wounded hero that finds it way back home.
Right. Okay. So we're going to have like a fun little exercise using this just so that those of you who think you don't know this, you also know this, right? And here's what it is. So the hero's journey is a template, which basically happened as a result of research by Joseph Campbell, who popularized it in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. It's inspired by Carl Jung's analytical psychology. And this is where Stella said it's archetypes. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And it's in narratology, which is the discipline looking at story structure. And in comparative mythology, it's also known as the monomyth. It's called the monomyth because it's this thing that repeats from culture to culture. And it's a common template in which it involves a hero who goes on an adventure, goes through trials and tribulations, becomes victorious, and comes home changed. Now, okay, if you guys don't know about this, I'm gonna like destroy your world, and like storytelling is not gonna be the same. So I'm sorry about that. Like if you enjoy movies and novels, you know, and you don't like spoilers, this is gonna be tough. So sorry about that. But the idea about the hero's journey is that Joseph Campbell, what he did, he looked at a lot of myths from Native Americans, and then he looked at myths from all around the world, and he realized that there's this thing which happens in almost every story. And then he realized there's an ordinary world, like a person in a normal situation, which gets called to adventure, or this is called also in screenwriting or in writing as the inciting incident. By the way, does anybody here write? Or does any kind of like creative writing?
I just published a book.
Cool.
As a co-writer.
Brilliant. Okay. Anybody else?
It's nonfiction.
Okay. All right. Then, I mean, we can't really use it for this, but we can discuss about it later if you want. Anybody else? All right, cool. So excellent. Let me blow your mind more, right? So effectively, almost any story that we can think of is a hero's journey, right? Let's take, for example, Star Wars. Have you guys seen Star Wars? Or heard about Star Wars, like, right? So excellent. So the thing about Star Wars is it's like we have Luke Skywalker, right? And we have the starry sky, which kind of there's a shot from outer space. It goes down, you know, the camera pans down, and it comes to a desert. And we have Luke Skywalker, who is the hero. He wants to leave his home planet and become a pilot. This is a cult. So yeah, first of all, desert world, ordinary world. He wants to become a pilot. That's the call to adventure, right? Then he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi, the old space wizard, a Jedi, who mentions the Force, right? And Luke says he doesn't want to do it. And that's the refusal of the call. Then he discovers a holographic message of Princess Leia, and he decides to leave his planet. They cross the threshold, right? They join the rebellion. Then they meet allies and enemies. So Han Solo, all these other guys. Also, we see that Darth Vader is somebody who's against them. After that, Luke settles in and starts to train. Then he meets in the cave. There's this there's this moment in which he decides that he can't do it. Obi-Wan is killed, so he loses his mentor. The Death Star approaches. It destroys a planet. So this is a moment in the story where everything goes down, and then after that, he decides to use the Force to destroy the people who destroyed this planet. There's a final confrontation between him and Darth Vader and the Death Star, and Darth Vader and his ship. He prevails, wins, and then the heroes receive medals in the end. So this would be the return with the elixir, right? So the reason why some of these are called Resurrection, The Road Back, and so on is because sometimes the blueprint doesn't really follow exactly the cliches, but we could say the return with the elixir could be a magical item, but it could also be a knowledge which changed the hero to something else. Okay, I want to hear examples from you of a story that's like that from popular culture. So which other blueprint, which other story follows this blueprint? Stella.
Well, from top of my mind, story of Ulysses.
Ulysses.
Ulysses,
Okay,
yeah, Greece story by Homer. Count Monte Cristo, King
Excellent.
Arthur.
Cool.
I think Bible is full of these things, most prominently Jesus.
One of the greatest quotes from the Bible is whenever you have a creative block, in the Bible it says, there is nothing new under the sun. Okay, so that's from 2,000 years ago. Well, okay, technically from 1,600 years ago after it was compiled. Christina, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry. I can talk. Lord of the Rings, of course.
Lord of the Rings, excellent, right? So this is a really good example of the character who comes back changed, right? So Frodo Baggins comes back, and then in the end, he doesn't fit the world, right? Like he is forever changed by the experience, by the wound that he received, by this. And also Bilbo Baggins, the original character, also is changed, and he needs to leave for the Western lands. So effectively, once you go on this adventure, something happens, right? Something changes.
The saddest moment of the story, probably.
Right. Yeah, exactly, right? And it evokes, what kind of feeling does it evoke in you? When you say sad, what kind of?
I don't know. It was terrible part of the books when I read it. That part with Frodo. I read it several times when probably that was the most, I don't know, the hardest thing.
Right. So
coming back.
Yeah, no coming back, right? So I would say, if I could pinpoint the feeling, I would say it's nostalgia.
Probably.
And nostalgia in Greek means suffering the old wound and the wound of not being able to come back. And also we all suffer from this. Like we all talk about how when we were younger, politicians were more fair and we had more money and everything was better. But unfortunately, that's not true. Like things change, and like we color things by our memories, right?
Yes, I think the journey is life itself, because I mean, when you move from your childhood place, you change, and when you come back, you don't find what you left. But even the people that stay, things change anyway, because life is dynamic. Life is
it's like a river. Like you can't step into the same river twice, right?
And this feeling is like when you watch a movie that the time passes and in the end there are flashbacks. You get into the feeling that you're living their lives together with them.
Right.
And you feel that nostalgia of the beginning of the movie that lasted only 2 hours, but it's like it lasted a lifetime. You get really into the movie.
This is the power of creating a narrative, and I promise you, each one of you can do this, right? I'll give a couple more examples just like from the top of my head. So like The Wizard of Oz, The Matrix, Harry Potter, all of them have the same structure. Like Iron Man, any Marvel character, right, is the same thing. Okay, let's move on.
Can I give 2 more examples?
Yes, please.
Croatia, but non-Croatian people won't understand. So I thought of Šegrt Hlapić.
Okay.
And Družba Perekvržica.
Okay.
For example.
Okay, so Šegrt Hlapić is a young shoemaker's apprentice who messes up a really nice pair of shoes and then goes on an adventure to kind of recover them, like make them again, and so on. And then these are great examples. This is exactly right. So all of these makes a lot of sense. Another blueprint which is used in movie storytelling is by a guy called Blake Snyder, and he wrote this book which kind of became a meme, like a virus, like a mental virus, which is a completely thought out strategy for a 110-page screenplay with beats on the minute of what happens. So it's called Save the Cat because one of the main things that you need to do with the character, you need to make them likable in the very beginning, right? So if you have the character save a cat from a tree in the first 3 minutes, you signal this is a good guy, right? Later, if you kill the cat, even better. Right, the guy who kills the cat, or the woman, or the person who kills the cat, very bad person, right? So this happened in, for instance, John Wick. I don't know if you've seen John Wick. It's kind of like an action movie with Keanu Reeves, but he's like a really badass assassin guy who retired, and he had like his wife died, and she gave him his dog, and then they killed the dog, and then he literally goes insane and kills everyone. But like we still like him because he liked the dog, even though he shot like 100 people in the face. So yeah, it's one of those things like how we can condition beats, how the beats can condition us to think of something. So here's an example of something like this, right? So these are 15 plot points. So immediately we'll have, the opening image and the final image are usually mirrored because we want to bookend the story. Then we have the character, we have a theme stated, what is this thing that this person is doing? So for instance, in the case of Lord of the Rings, it's literally wanting to go on an adventure, right? And for instance, in the Matrix is discovering that they're in a simulation, and then everything goes from there, right? We can skip the example because you guys did really well in the last one. Now the second part we're going to talk about, and here I gave you an exercise, right? I gave you an exercise in your Zoom chat, which is how do you craft a story to build your community, and how do you use storytelling to emotionally connect with your audience? And I'm going to show you an example of what I did with mine. We will not have time to really go deep into this, but if you guys find these exercises interesting, I would love for you to get in touch with me and we can work on those. And also maybe later in the program as well. So one of the things that I wanted to show you is this. So this is an article that I wrote for my previous company called Matterless, the one where we were making toys and pets in augmented reality. And the reason why I wanted to share it with you is because it's something that I've done. 1 second, let me just make it bigger for you. Sec.
You can send the link in the chat too.
I will do. So the reason why I want to show you this is because, again, this is a gaming example. So Solarpunk is a type of speculative fiction which talks about community, about diversity, about being socially active, about fixing things, about upcycling. It's a very fundamentally different view of the future from most of the movies that we've seen, most of the stories where the future is grim. It's a kind of dystopia. So what I did here was I took this idea of something being very, very lovely, and then I contrasted it with another trend. And if you guys have been in the metaverse, in the NFT space, you have probably, as artists, noticed that there is a very kind of clear color palette. So kind of this dark neon, using pinks and greens like in the 80s, and kind of creating this kind of cyberspace and a little bit of a grim future thing. And this is mostly, it comes from the 80s, and it mostly comes from the genre of cyberpunk. Does anybody here know what cyberpunk is? Okay, so cyberpunk is a type of future imagined where corporations are ruling the world and people are literally chopping off their limbs to replace them with chrome extensions. And it came out as a subversive genre in the 1980s to kind of talk about the yuppie culture, to talk about Wall Street, and to talk about how corporations are literally stripping away our humanity. And the reason why this is important is because this type of influence, Blade Runner, the book Neuromancer, which talks about it for the first time, William Gibson, Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, the guy who literally invented the term metaverse. All of these are tropes which talk about the grim future in which we need to fight as a small individual, right? Now, the thing is, cyberpunk, when it came out, it was very subversive. But then, as things happen in art, and which is something you probably know as artists yourself, the original meaning gets lost. And then what happens is, it became the shorthand for the entire aesthetic of the metaverse. And the problem with this is that kind of sucks. Like, it sucks to be creating things which are, it's one of those things that makes you feel like, what is this future? I don't want to live in this future, the future of climate change, of like us being like having no rights, needing to like upload our brains into a computer or a cloud. So yeah, it's not great. It's not a great future to be in, right? Now, the reason why this is incredibly important is because what happens with art is it has tremendous influence on us. The storytelling capability of art is even greater because, unlike something with a strong narrative structure like a story, art usually communicates something very deep, and like oftentimes we can't really express it. We can't put it into words. So it's like on an emotional level even more impactful. But the storytelling shapes how we understand the present and imagine the future. And then these narratives, they shape our emotions, and art even more. So art and stories don't just reflect who we are, they shape who we believe we can become. And in turn, the futures we create in fiction ripple through our culture, feeding back into our collective imagination. So through this feedback loop, pop culture is being constructed, no? So if you only see dark, grim future narratives, chances are most people are not going to think about anything else. They're not going to imagine anything else. So if we want to break away from that and move forward, what do? We need to think about something else. And here, let me just say this. Do you wish for a world that's cleaner, less polluted? Does anybody here disagree that we should live in a cleaner, less polluted world? Yeah. Okay. I assume that you saying nothing is a no. So do you dream of creating a future that's kinder and more sustainable to the people in it? Probably yes, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you believe that technology can be harnessed for the good of all instead of just the lucky few?
Yes, it's a tool, and it can be well used and ill used.
For instance, we're using it now for this, right? In a way which is a little beneficial, right? And then, do you want to see communities thrive with nature and innovation working in hand in hand in your favor? If you do, then I categorically claim that you are a solar punk. So what is solar punk? Let's look at the vision of the world that could be if we were living a solar punk future. And this is a commercial, mind you, but still.
Dear Alice, this place is yours now. It's a handful, but nothing worth doing is easy. Land is more than just dirt. If you look after it, it will feed you forever. You're a smart one. I know you'll be okay from rain or shine. And remember, a business is only as good as its people. So treat them well. Our job is to plant seeds so our grandkids get to enjoy the fruit. So eat well, Alice, and keep planting those seeds. Because how we eat today feeds tomorrow.
All right. How do you guys feel after watching this?
Finally,
It gives hope.
There's hope. Okay, cool. Anything else?
it's nice to see for a change a future that is light, not dark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody else have a comment? Yelena, what about you?
I appreciate the style of animation and the color palette, and I mean, everybody looked so beautiful. I really appreciate it.
Kind of this Japanese anime style, yeah? Exactly, right? So, yeah, why don't we dream of a future like this, right? Like, why don't we make something which inspires people to think that we can live in socially horizontal communities which allow us to make decisions for ourselves, where we don't throw away things, where we live with animals without using them and abusing them, and also to make sure that we can take care of the environment, which is something that's a responsibility of all of us, right? So basically, solar punk is an emerging genre of speculative fiction, like cyberpunk, but with a very different twist. And if you kind of now know about this meme, if you know about this idea, you will start seeing it appear in like more and more things, right? Like because there's more video games about it, there's science fiction novels about it, there's more buzz about it in the last couple of years, right? So, and I would love for you guys to read the article and then give me some feedback. Yes, Lucia.
Yeah, it reminded me of Heidi, if you know the story.
Okay, yeah. So what's the story of Heidi? Please share.
It's a utopic world. Heidi lives in the Alps with her grandfather, with goats, and like that image, not the story really, but the image. So yeah, just an association.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of fits this different narrative, right? So in my company, one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to create a narrative for our game, which is like this, right? And I say, this is one of our guiding principles here at Matterless. We want to tell a transformative story, one of personal growth, supported by technology and care, blossoming into a shared social experience, because we built a technology which allows us to share things in AR, in augmented reality, between multiple devices, which is currently a really big problem. Now, if you believe animals should be deserve to be treated with more fairness and respect, you're a solar punk. If you want to know your neighbors better, build something together, you're a solar punk. And ultimately, if you want to achieve carbon neutrality and live in an ecologically more sound world, you are
Totally solar punk.
Yeah, okay. All right. So now that you know who you are, what are you going to do about it, right? Buy my product. You're going to buy my product. Okay? Because I build this narrative for people to look at it and nod and say, yes, I feel this too, right? So we were a startup. We got a lot of funding. Then we needed to create a product so that we can keep growing. And this was one of the ways that we tried to do it. Now, I hope you don't feel tricked by this story, but this is an example of how you can use this tool to make sure that people understand emotionally what you want to do and agree with you, right? And this is a tool. It's a rhetoric tool. It's a tool from debate. It's a tool from thinking. It's a syllogism. It's a logical sequence where you agree with every point, and by the end of it, we are in agreement on what I'm saying, right? And this is something that storytelling does, and you can use this, right? This is basically what good storytelling does, right? All right, let's keep going. Okay, now we're going to talk about game design, right? Like, so I was also in gaming. I don't know if any of you are gamers. Do you guys play video games or mobile games on your phones?
No.
No. Okay, Yelena plays. Yelena, what do you play?
A bunch of things, kind of on and off. I was really into Sims. I was really into like battle games, like The Last of Us. I don't know. Now my sister is kind of hooked on Pokemon Go, so we're playing that.
Cool, excellent. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's awesome. So the thing about game design is we have some interesting things that we can again take away from the entire thing that we're doing. So this here is Shigeru Miyamoto, the guy who invented Super Mario, right? And game designers, what they do is they do a couple of different things. One is they create the rules for the game. So you move from left to right, you jump on certain things, and you need to finish the stage, right? The second thing is they make the mechanics of the world, which means what they do is they create like how tall you can jump, what happens when you shoot something, how do you lose a life, how do you win, right? And then finally we have the world of the game. In Super Mario, this would be he's an Italian plumber who jumps into the sewers and like tries to win a princess from a giant dragon turtle, right? So in Super Mario, the story is not that important because what you really want to do is you want to play a game that's fun, right? And the fun of the game is from being good at the game. And mostly it's about game mechanics, right? Now, so a game designer is kind of like a little bit of a director, a little bit of a coder, somebody who thinks about like what is fun to do from second to second. And we in game design do a lot of iteration. Like it's really important to iterate to create new things because the things that are fun, it's not really easy to know. So you can kind of build a game and it's not fun, and you put a lot of effort in because you put the mechanics in, you have the voice actors who are acting, you have the artists who are creating 2D and 3D assets for it, and then like if the game can be very, very beautiful, but if it's not fun to play, it doesn't work. So one of the things about being in the game industry, it's really hard because it's very difficult to know if something is fun or not. It's like, imagine it as if you were like an aeronautics engineer and you built an airplane and it flies, and then you need to build another one, but you don't know how it flies. So you need to figure out how to do it again, right? So the way that we do it, we prototype, we create like a small kind of slice of what the game is. We test it by playing, then we analyze what goes on, and then we design, and then we go into this iterative circle. And it's a little bit like the creative process for an artist, I believe, because you kind of do the same thing, right? Like you're looking at it, you're thinking like this works, this doesn't work, and then we change it. I don't really want to go deeply into this, but I just want to kind of, for you guys to know, if you guys are going to be creating immersive environments in like a 3D space, then you kind of need to understand that there is something called the mechanics, which is how the game works. So if you're shooting at something, how do you shoot? How far does it go? What does the bullet do when it hits something? If it's a game where you're putting puzzles together, okay, how many puzzle pieces do you need to put together to finish a piece of the game, like Candy Crush, right? Like, okay, so it's 3, they're the same color. Like, what does it feel like when you put them together? Then you have the dynamics, which is how the game plays. Like once you put these rules in place, what you need to do is you need to figure out if it's fun to do, right? So maybe if you want to connect 5 pieces instead of 3 pieces, it's too difficult, and people don't want to stick around until they put 5 together, right? And then finally, we have the aesthetics, which is, you know, how the game feels. And this is not the aesthetics of the game in the sense of how does it look. It's the aesthetics of the game, how does it feel, right? So, like, what is the fun part of it? So if you play chess, what's the fun part of playing chess?
The strategy, thinking about the strategy.
Okay, thinking about the strategy. Very good. Anything else? Like, what's the goal of chess?
To destroy the king.
Yeah, to beat the other player, right? To destroy the other king. And see, it's very interesting because you said it's not to beat the other player, you said to destroy a king. There's no king. It's just like small pieces of plastic, right? But we create the story. We have the story of 2 kingdoms and their armies which are fighting against each other. But effectively, there's no, like, we put that part in by ourselves, right? But if chess was not fun to play, nobody would know this story, right? So we're now building up on top of our scaffolding of having storytelling. Now we're talking about, like, how does it feel to do, right? Because in immersive experiences, you do something, you interact in some way, right? So yeah, we could also say the first level is code, the mechanics are code, the second level, the dynamics are actions, and then finally the aesthetics are feelings, right? And in game design, we're doing something called fixing the problem of a door, because this is something that a lot of people don't think about. But it's like, okay, you're making a game, there's a door in the game. How does it work? Do you open it? Is every door the same? Can anyone go through the game? Can multiple people go through the door? Who's coming from the other side of the door? Like, these are the things that game designers fix, right? And then on top of that, you have the people, if you're marketing a game, then it's like, okay, so what does the marketer say? The marketer says, oh, we have an amazing update from this update. We have doors in our game, and those doors are amazing. You can open them, you can close them, you can go through them. So in a way, this example of a door can really go, you can go through the entire company and every single role and think about, okay, like, how do we think about doors? Now imagine that for like an entire system of how you move and shoot and win. Game mechanics, they influence player behavior and emotions. So this game that's over here is called Overcooked. And Overcooked, has anyone tried this game? Okay, so this is a game where you need to deliver food, right? Like, you need to cook the food and you need to give it to the customers in the restaurant, right? But the fun part of the game is talking. The most fun you can do is if you play together. So you get 2 or 3 or 4 friends, and then you play in the same room. And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna cut the meat and I'm gonna cook it. And who's gonna wash the dishes? You need to wash the dishes. No, I don't want to wash the dishes. I want to cut the salad and I want to put it together. So basically, what this game creates, it creates a space in the physical world, not as we play, but we as a group of friends, and we start arguing. Okay. And a lot of people say that Overcooked is a game that destroys friendships, because if you need to do a task together and you don't know how to organize, like, a lot of arguments begin. And, you know, if you worked in a collective or with other artists or just in general in your life, or if you even cooked the dinner with like 3 other people, you probably have this experience where it's like, you know, I want to do this part and you should do this part. So it's interesting to think about how the mechanics of this game are about you needing to make an agreement between yourselves. And if you don't, the game gets more tough, but also more fun, right? So this is for people who want to do this, right? All right, so the third part, so we talked about storytelling. Now we talked about some principles of game design. The third thing we're going to talk about is the environment or level design. So when we think about games, we think about interaction in general, and it's also like what is fun or fulfilling to do. So in chess, it's about strategy, being smarter than the other player, beating them, right? In what about, let's say, in a game of poker? Like what is the fun part of playing a game of poker? Stella.
Poker face.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
Playing against someone with only your imagination. So yeah, I think cards are less important than your attitude.
That's very good. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, exactly. Like part of the poker is about counting the cards, but it's also about not showing.
It's about faking as well, no?
Yeah, exactly. It's about faking it. That's exactly right, right? So it's like not about showing your real emotions. So it's mostly about fooling the other person as opposed to also being good in the game, right? For most people, like for professional poker players, it's both. But that's a completely different level, right? So there are certain things that we can do in games. We want to win, we want to cooperate, we want to capture something, control, and so on, but we can actually skip this part. And the reason why I want to talk about environment design or level design is about how do we keep moving people in the right direction in our environment. So yesterday, you guys with Bay went to On Cyber and you built a virtual world, right? You were building something in a 3D world, right? So it was probably a gallery. Was it a gallery? Was it something else to show off your work?
A gallery, because we didn't have much time. So it was something very basic.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So if you guys did it yesterday, then you tasted a little bit of, okay, like, wow, now I have like all this space and, you know, I don't have the limit of money for materials, of like how big the space is, of how big my artworks are, right? Like, how do I design the experience for people to be in that space, right? Like, what are they going to do? Like, do they move forward straight to where my sculpture is? Do I make them go behind the hill so then when they see it, they get even more amazed by it? And this is something that urban planning and architecture has been doing for ages. If you look at the temples of ancient Egypt or the Pantheon and the Parthenon or any kind of like structure which was built, a cathedral, like it's all about experience. It's actually experience design, right? So like, how do we build this in 3D worlds? And in this game, for instance, the problem was the players didn't know where to go. So what the people in the game did is they created these landmarks. So if you're moving through the game, you will see something just around the hill. And then you will see here, he's climbing, and then he sees behind the hill this tower, right? And he's like, okay, I can go there. Or he's climbing this, again, this hill, and he behind it sees some sort of thing. So basically, in this way, we can direct where the player, the participant of the experience is going, right? And this is really important. And also, in many games, this is something that like takes years to iterate and create and make compelling, right? So this is basically world building for games. So let's think about what are some of the lessons that we can take into other spaces. Christina, shout out for you with the Lord of the Rings map. So yeah, basically environments can effectively tell stories in games, but also not games, but any kind of immersive experience. So for instance, here, we turn into a detective. So we have a character who's walking through ruins and he sees a piano in the kitchen. Later, he gets up to the second floor and he sees there's a hole. So there was a piano that fell through the floor into the cave, right? And in that moment, you have this moment, aha, I know what happened here, right? And it makes you feel smart, right? So basically what we do is, this is called environmental storytelling in games. So it involves deductive reasoning, being a detective, and also kind of to connect the dots, to connect the details, like why do things happen in this way? So Yelena mentioned that she played The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a post-apocalyptic game where you're like going through the ruins of America, and then sometimes you go into places where people died, and then you kind of try to put together the story. Like, you know, you can find some papers in the room in their bedroom or living room, or you find skeletons which are holding each other in their arms, and then you kind of like piece together what the story is, right? So we use this in experience design a lot, right? Also, environment influences the atmosphere. So this is a game called Journey, in which you play as an unknown character, and you're supposed to climb a mountain. Like in the very first moment, there's no words in this game. There's literally no dialogue. And what you do is you're supposed to climb this mountain, and it's always somewhere visible. You can see it like in the top right of this shot that we just saw. And you as a character are supposed to move towards there. Now, here we use level design to evoke different feelings. So for instance, this is a feeling of some sort of comfort. There's a lot of sandy colors, sunset colors, in which you, as you go through it, you feel more optimistic. And then you have moments like this where you fall into a hole, which is dark and gray, where it gets a bit more claustrophobic. And it's one of those things that really helps create atmosphere. A couple of tools that you can use in gaming, but we're going to jump over that because we want to move on, right? So like, how do we apply these to different environments, right, outside of gaming? Sorry, another example of a game. But an interesting example, because, you know, Sonia, you talked about like building a community, right? So this is a game where you're like killing giant bugs. And I'm sorry that a lot of these examples are maybe not super appropriate for this group, but a lot of games are like this. Not all of them, but some. So Helldivers is a game in which you're, have you guys seen Starship Troopers, the movie where, the Paul Verhoeven movie where humans fight against like giant bugs? So Paul Verhoeven made a movie. Christina is a nerd. Christina is a nerd like me. She gets it. So the thing about this movie was it was a very strong critique of American imperialism and of Nazism, because humans are this species which goes into space and kills other species. And a lot of the motifs and a lot of the set design and costume design evoked Nazi Germany. So it was a way to kind of be subversive about, you know, humans who are, in this case, you know, we're the bad guys, really. Like if you watch the movie the way it's supposed to be, like we're the bad guys in the story. And this year there was a game that came out called Helldivers 2, which basically does the same thing. And it became incredibly popular. So it sold over 8 million copies, which is a lot. And it has, a couple of months ago, it had around like 500,000 daily players, which is a lot. And the reason why that's interesting is because it's not like a game that you usually see where you play a story, or you have a multiplayer game where people try to solve a task together, which is pre-made. In this game, you have a person who's running all the shots. So you have a guy, a real person, who's like setting up the objectives for these people to solve. So perhaps they need to take over a planet because it's been infested by socialist robots, which is bad, or disgusting bugs, which is also bad. And what happened very quickly was, because people had these objectives which were made on the fly, it became very engaging for everybody who was playing. And then for weeks, people would like rally together to fight and take over a planet. And here you see on the top, you see one of the shots from the game itself, and you can kind of see that I mean, it's clearly ironic, right? But then the bottom part is this news alert where it's a news report about all the casualties of the war which these players had. This is fan made. Okay, this is not part of the game. Someone made this video because he thought it was cool. People started creating their own lore, their own storytelling about it based on the objectives which were happening in the game. So this person who is a game master, who kind of selected what are the tasks that people need to do, like he basically built up even more engagement because people felt like it was something real that was happening. Another really cool example was a virtual concert which happened in Fortnite. So Fortnite is Epic Games like mega hit of a game, and you know, if you have kids, they probably asked to buy them skins for Fortnite. They asked you to give them something that they can only wear in the game. The thing about Fortnite is it's more than just a game. It's a game where like a bunch of people are like trying to shoot each other, but it became a pop cultural phenomenon. And maybe did Bay mention this yesterday? Did she tell you about Fortnite? Okay, awesome. So we can move on from there. And then we have an example. So we saw a game, we saw kind of like a concert, kind of like a social space. And then also we have Decentraland, in which we had the Mesh Fair, this metaverse art exhibition by artists like yourself who built something in a virtual world. Okay, so let's continue. Now that we have these three major parts, right? Let's talk about transmedia. What is transmedia design? Okay, so Yelena will know this. Yelena, can you tell us what this is?
The Last of Us?
Can you tell us why do we have these two things in parallel?
Just a second. Oh, it's the first part, I mean the first thing, and then later parts.
Yes and no.
First is the video game that is the first one published, and then the TV show.
Yeah. Has anybody seen this TV show?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened? We had the video game, and then we switched to a different medium. We switched to a TV show, and Hollywood and these big broadcasting companies, they tried to, for decades, make really good stories from video games translated into the medium of movies and shows, but it was really bad because they didn't really take it seriously. But what happened in the last couple of years is that we finally have high budget shows and movies which are based on video games. The Last of Us is specifically quite interesting because the storyline of that game is quite dark and grim, and you're supposed to figure out how to take this little girl across the United States, which is infested by these creatures. It's effectively like it's like zombies, but people are not dead. They were taken over by a parasite mushroom. So it's a little bit more grounded in reality in a way. But it's still kind of like a post-apocalyptic horror drama thing. Here's what happened when they made it. It premiered in 2023. It had almost 5 million viewers, and it received 8 Emmys. This never happened in the history of a show which was built on top of a existing intellectual property of a video game, of an IP of a video game. And it received critical acclaim for its adaptation because it was so good at taking some parts from one media, video games, interactive spaces, and turning it into a proper story in the movie-going world. Why is this important?
This is very difficult because the mediums are so different.
Exactly.
That's because I never like a movie that is made from a book I read, because in the book I imagine things myself, and then in the movie they're already there.
Right, exactly, right? So first thing is you have like a limited, it kind of limits your imagination, right? Then on the other hand, if you look at games versus movies in the way that they plot runs, right? So maybe in a game, so for instance, let's take Lord of the Rings as an example, right? So in the Lord of the Rings, you have a battle which happens for 3 minutes, right? And then you have the next part of the story. In a game, the battle maybe is the entire game. And then you have a little bit of the story in between, right? So they're very different mediums with very different beats, like story beats. It's, yeah, as you say, it's quite difficult to transfer them from one to the other. But this is happening. And why is this happening? So again, the virtual concert thing. Transmedia storytelling is the art of world making. What does this mean? So in 2006, a theoretician who works in MIT Media Lab writes a book called Convergence Culture. And he says, in those times, this is when the first Marvel movies are hitting the theaters. So you have these massive superhero movies, which come from comic books, right? And he says there's missed opportunities. He says that movies that are booming, games are getting longer, and the internet is connecting everyone. And he says that media companies are competing rather than working together, right? To take all of these interesting stories, these IPs, these intellectual properties, and putting them together in a way which transcends one medium, right? So he says that transmedia storytelling is when you take collaboratively all of these mediums together and you put them into the same thing. And like we can look at the diagram here a little bit, right? So you can take text, you can take books with illustrations, games, movies, comic books and graphic novels, radio shows, so podcasts, TV, digital media, stuff we watch online, streaming stuff. So people who are, for instance, streaming something. I mean, in a way, I wouldn't say this is streaming media. It's streaming, definitely. I don't know if it's interesting enough to be called media, but hopefully you guys enjoy this even a little bit. And then you can also take the classical art forms like painting, sculpting, and architecture. So basically, you could start the story in film. You can continue through TV, through books, comics. You could explore the world of that game, of that world. You can explore the contents of that world in a game. And that's what's happening right now. So you have, like in Fortnite, this game that I mentioned before, you have characters from sports, movies, literature appearing, right? You have TV shows which are made on games. You have games which then you have games which are based on movies and shows and books. So it's all kind of like coming together, right? The thing is, what is the next step, right? And that's what we're going to talk about next. I suggest we take another break of 5 minutes. Zara, let's take a short break, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. Please come back with questions. See you in 5.
See you.
All right, guys, let's jump back in. Is this okay for you guys? Do you have enough time? Do you need a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then we can just hang out. We can just chat a bit. So anything about this that you guys saw right now? Anything that you feel like is cool or maybe not cool? You agree? You disagree? I'd love to hear opinions.
Didn't Netflix do like a Black Mirror gaming episode? I think it's connected to the topic.
Okay. So which show? Sorry, which show is it?
Black Mirror.
Yeah, they did a gaming episode. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they did a couple, but potentially the one that you're talking about is a guy who has he's trying out like a super immersive headset, right?
No. Yeah, that was like a gaming episode, but I'm talking about the one that you as a viewer can actually choose the outcomes.
It's excellent. Yes, Bandersnatch. Yeah, that was a really, really interesting concept. Yeah, thank you for like I forgot about that. I forgot about it.
And I haven't watched the Last of Us show yet. That's why I was out of the loop.
It's really good. It's really, really good. I find it so Craig Mazin, like the guy who made Chernobyl. I don't know if you guys saw Chernobyl, like one of the top, yeah. Like it's the same guy who produced and wrote it. So it's really serious. It sounds silly, right? Like mushroom people and you know post-apocalypse, but it's a drama show, and it's a drama show about like very serious moral decision making, and I was really amazed. And also they created a bunch of stuff in the show which didn't exist in the game, with some characters who are gay, which is incredible. And one of the actors who played that role got an Emmy for his performance. So it's really try to be open-minded, give it a shot.
I mean, I'm always a bit skeptical when it comes to those things, so I'm always a bit late.
Mhm.
But It's on a list, definitely.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely we can nerd out about like shows and games and stuff. I feel like we have a lot in common.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. So yeah, is everybody more or less here? Please signal in a way that I can see you. Okay. Hi. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, excellent. Okay. Finally, we built up enough scaffolding so that we can now start talking about actual immersive design, right? So, what is immersive design? First of all, yesterday, you guys, you had Bay come in and tell you a little bit about augmented reality, virtual reality, and the extended reality as a mixture, right? So the thing you need to understand is there is currently a massive thing happening in computing in general. And it's an even bigger shift than what happened when we went from desktop computers to these guys, to handheld computers, right? So we went from desktop to mobile, right? And this completely changed the way that we interact. So before we had mobile phones, we couldn't really do any kind of social media. We couldn't record things. We couldn't exchange information at the speed that we do. We couldn't consume a lot of content like we do right now. 70% of all websites is accessed by mobile phones, right? So if you're designing something, you need to design it for mobile as well. The next thing that's going to happen is going to be a switch from mobile to spatial. And that's something that's going to require an incredible amount of technical ability, tons of design, and in general, advancements in every tech that we have. And what's going to happen there is you're not going to be wearing a computer in your pocket anymore. First, you had it on the table. First, it was as big as a room. Then it fit on top of a table, on top of a desk. Then it fit in your pocket. The next thing is going to be on your face. So the next computer is going to be something you wear here. And this will happen. And it's already happening. Once we have a computer that we look through instead of interact with, we open up a completely new category of how we experience reality, and also a new category of storytelling and creating products, art, experiences, everything. What's going to happen is you're going to be interacting with digital things, immaterial things in your space, which exist only through the barrier of you looking through something to see it. You can imagine it in the same way as having a radio receiver. And now you can switch different stations. You can listen to music. You can listen to the news. You can listen to anything you want by simply switching to a different frequency. You have 100 different music backgrounds to your day, right? What happens when we have that with our visual space? What happens is we can put things in the world around us, digital things, which are only accessible to some. Some of us will listen to jazz music. Some of us are going to listen to death metal music. Some of us are going to listen to bossa nova. It completely colors differently our sense of atmosphere, of the environment that we're in. This is going to start happening visually in the world around us. And this is what this chart is about. We have on one end completely virtual reality things, gaming worlds, exactly what we saw yesterday with Bay, and also the things that I showed you today with the games, where you look through a screen and look into a 3D world, which is somewhere immaterial, existing virtually, until we go to mixed reality, where we have material world with a digital component on top of it. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So we're entering something called the spatial era. Spatial computing is the linking of digital data and information with the physical world, creating a new form of computer-human interaction. So it extends what is conventional about computers and enables us not to only present information on screens, but like physically present, anchored somewhere in the world around us. And this creates an immersion that is like no other. Right now, it's still very basic. And people have been, so this here is a HoloLens by Microsoft. This is an old video from like years ago. You can see that the size of the thing on the face is massive. It's like the guy's wearing, or the lady's wearing a scuba diving mask, right? Let me show you what you can do with spatial game design. Ah, okay, we have a little glitch. One sec. Okay, we'll just play it from YouTube. Yes, comment.
Hey, Damir, maybe a good example would be also some Black Mirror episode, I don't remember which one, where they wear eye contact so they can go back in past or something like this.
Yes,
Or,
yeah.
like they don't have glasses, but they have eye contact.
Yeah, so they have a contact and they have like a little disc, and then they can like rewind like into the past and into the future their previous experiences, because everything that they experience is recorded and they can relive it through these lenses. Yeah, and actually they have like a chip, a brain chip as well.
Yeah, it's coming probably.
Guys, this is gonna happen. Like this is happening, like it's happening for sure, right? Like, so which side do you want to stand on? Do you want to stand on the side of the people who are consuming or the side of the people who are creating? Like, I know which side I want to be on.
Both.
No judgment here, right? So yeah, let's see if this video works. For some reason, it doesn't. Okay. Let's see. All right, let's try it here. I don't know where this is happening, but we'll kill it. Yeah, so this is a product I worked on.
Got chocolate? It's my last one.
Wanna play for it?
Augmented reality is better when shared, but you can keep your chocolate. What will you share? Alkila. Share your vision.
So what do we do when we play a game which has digital elements, but we can place it into the world around us? What do we do when we can use the technology that we have not to make us separate and be in our own worlds, but create a dimension where we can all work together, play together, experience things together? This was the most profound and important principle of design of experiences that we wanted to achieve. Because you've probably been in conversations where the people that you spoke with, went to coffee with, they kind of got lost in their phone. You know, they were like sucked in. So this is something that we wanted to avoid. Like we don't think that it's possible possible for us to go back and not use phones and not have this tech. But what we can do is we can design experiences for it, which are more immersive and more shared. So that was the mandate of our company. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so another thing that we did was treasure hunts. So this is, again, how do we use environment design to create something which is more immersive? This is a corporate video. Excuse the terrible music.
Alkilavs, share your vision.
So this, you know, earlier I talked about target audience, right? So who are you speaking to? So conversions, footfall, these are the terms from the retail industry. So this is from people who want to engage with you in their supermarket stores where you're buying where you're buying goods. And we created a more engaging program which allows us to, let's say, through a loyalty app, you can go into a store and you can play a little mini game. Right? So this is an example that I wanted to show you because I feel like it creates possibilities for you to think about how you can design something using digital materials, digital assets in the physical spaces around you. And again, this is just one of the many ways in which we can talk about. But let's review, right? Like there's a storytelling element here. There's a game design element here. There's an environment element here, and finally there's a immersion element here, right? So like we put all of these together and it turns into something which happens in the physical space around us. And the cool thing about this is if you can do a little bit of, like, if you're a little bit techie, like if you minted an NFT, you can make this. Like I will put my right hand into the fire to say that like each one of you can build this. Another short example of how we put these two things together. So again, like the storytelling element here is okay. The storytelling element here is we took a game and then we took the commercial application and we put them together.
You are the proud owner of the domain. You are using it to enhance your physical space by giving it a digital life. Did you know that within the same domain and using the same portals, you can get access to a free AR entertainment experience? This is Floorcraft, a fun multiplayer and interactive battle game in a shared augmented reality. It's a gift from us to you. Give it a try.
Okay. So I want to point out one thing here, right? So like we're using storytelling, but we're also explaining exactly how it works. Like you slap on a QR code, you scan it, and then you're in this room, right? And this is currently one of the big technical advantages that the company had. And this is why it raised a lot of money, because it created a seamless way in which we can create a digital space together. And this is currently a big headache for a lot of other companies. Bigger companies like Google and Meta and Apple and so on. The reason why I wanted to show you this is because one of the ways in which we thought about like environment design in a spatial context is we created these towers. So the towers, you can spawn them, and then the other person's spaceship can hide behind it. And if the other person's spaceship is behind, so if you have, you know, if you have a tower and then the other person's spaceship is behind it, what do you need to do physically?
You need to move.
Exactly. But there's nothing there. It's digital. But we created a way in which the digital objects force you to move around, right? This is immersive design. Let's keep going. So I want to show you now like something that is happening in the movie world. And it's quite fascinating. So
we're here to test shooting setups that haven't been possible in virtual production, but we now know that with the advances of technology, with improvements in Unreal Engine, we've set up a series of scenarios that are going to test that and demonstrate how we can take it into next year. We got the chance to essentially shoot some of the greatest hits. So we've created 5 shoot days. We've done a different thing every day to really show the evolution of where we've got to now. The beauty about this wall is that it's big enough for us to do pretty much anything we want to do on it. And on top of that, we have a rotating stage, which enables us to do fast turnarounds. We can prep on one side of the stage and shoot on the other, or we can do reverse shots just by turning the stage. The first day, we shot an exterior scene in a cold forest where we were able to really get the sense of a true exterior. Get shots like we did. You'd be out fishing with all your crew overnight. If you don't get your shot, you need to come back the next day because, you know, we wanted the perfect shot where the sun is just dying. So you got 15 minutes if you're on location to shoot that shot. We shot it in 30, 40 minutes. And then the last 2 shots, we shot them in 7 minutes each. Yeah. So that's something that just doesn't happen all the day. Day 2 was probably the biggest shot of the week. It was the Colosseum. Often scenes like this are shot on location, but we want to make it more convenient and push the fidelity and the freedom of what a shoot can be like on an LED stage like this. The screens are getting higher quality and the pitch of the bulbs is getting finer. So we're shooting wide angle shots, which used to be like a no-no. Like you shoot long lenses, throw the screen out of focus. We've got the screen in focus. We've captured people as scans and then they've created cards. We have some clever lighting techniques and shader tricks that allowed us to light those black cards as if they're 3D. This scene has 80,000 volumetric actors. 80,000 is a critical number that means you could fill any kind of football stadium, music stadium, anything that has a large crowd. And then 1 for 1, have every single one of them doing their own animated movements was a first.
Okay. I feel like you kind of get what's going on, right? We're kind of going full circle. So 100 years ago, movie sets were painted pieces of cardboard or wood in front of which the actors would act. Now we have the same thing, but we have a digital screen, so everything is done in shot. You don't have post CGI, so computer graphics, graphic effects. You don't need to clean up the green screen from every metal surface, one frame by one frame. Basically, now you have a digital. It's effectively like this, right? Like you have a background, and then as the camera moves, you will have parallax. So you will have movements which are completely in sync with what the camera would move if what would camera would see if it moved. It's like when you're driving on the highway and the sun is staying in the same place and the environment around you is moving, right? So what's happening is this, right? Like this is the sun, so this is what's happening, right? So like now there are technicians, people who are in the production of movies, developers, 3D artists who are on the set directing how this 3D environment, which was built in a game engine, kind of like on Cyber, what you saw yesterday, but mostly in Unreal. This is how they create quicker, faster shots of things which were impossible even 5 years ago. So it's a really exciting time in the movie industry as well. And this is called The Volume. And the first time it was put together was for The Mandalorian, for the TV show Jungle Book, and Mandalorian is where they started doing it. And it's Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's company that started it. Here's another very quick shot of that, just so that you guys kind of get what I'm saying.
You know the green screen and blue screen. You know it becomes the mist-covered planet, deserted background for scenery. What happens when the imaginary planet is already there?
The moment you step in the middle of the volume, you're just there.
The volume is the epic-sounding name for the combination of high-resolution LED panels. Imagine awesome, huge TV screens wrapping around a stage. The physical set design matched to the panels, and 3D models plopped into an environment the same way they do in a video game. Then it can respond to camera movement to simulate the real world. Disney Plus's The Mandalorian, a live-action Star Wars TV show, used this technique.
My name is Charmaine Chat, and I'm a lead compositor at Industrial Light and Magic.
Is it physically like confusing being on this set?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, like, you're shooting all day, let's say, in the same exact scene, and like you're at that location. It doesn't feel like it's something fake. It just feels like an extension of a regular set stage. You know, you got to be careful because there are times where people don't see where the end of the stage is and where the LEDs are.
You have like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner situations where somebody's like running into the wall or something.
Yeah, we definitely make sure that no one's running in that stage because of that reason.
Charmaine is credited.
This is nuts. This is crazy. This is happening. This is the future of creating experiences and art. And for that reason, Bay and I together in the beginning of this year created an exhibition called Spatial. And I think you mentioned it yesterday, yeah? Let's talk a little bit about why we did it. So we wanted to create an exhibition which creates a conversation about using spatial computing and art. And as Bay being an artist herself and me being an art historian, something that we talked about is spatialism. And this was all happening in the beginning of this year when Apple Vision Pro, the big headset, you know, the other scuba diving headset came out, which was talking about using, putting digital things into space. And then Lucio Fontana, the artist, the Italian artist, actually the Argentinian artist who lived in Italy, he also talked about spatialism in the middle of the century. And we said, okay, let's put those two together. So we created Slash Spatial. So for those of you who know computer, who understand what coders use, this slash, this diagonal slash, it's called a slash. So it's Slash Spatial. It's literally putting those two concepts together. Why did we do this? We did this because we wanted to create a way for artists to express themselves in multiple different dimensions. The one that's most common is the gallery space. So we put together in Copenhagen earlier this year an exhibition with digital screens on which you could see all the digital art being created by the 14 artists that we curated. The second one was the virtual exhibition, which you probably either saw or at least Bay talked about yesterday. This is her field. She's in a social metaverse called Decentraland, which is a pretty cool project. They have an amazing lineup for this year's music festival, which is happening later this year. The third thing was the extended reality, where we could project the 3D objects into the space physically where the exhibition was being held. Another thing that we're able to do is we can create now exhibition spaces, in any place with a screen. So this is in Belgium. It's in the train station in Belgium. This billboard was seen by thousands of people during this exhibition. But then also we can put digital objects just into the general space around us. So in this case, you're seeing this in the flower market, the flower square in Zagreb. So you can actually just download this asset onto your phone, and you can project it into the space around you. You can change its dimensions. You can change how it's positioned very simply by just using your hands and like moving things on a screen. Okay. However, the way that you could buy these, and those are the ones who made NFTs know, is still on a website. So this was done on Tezos. All of these are in Object One, and the way that you still interact with it is through a screen, through a 2D screen, Why is this important? Why do I want to tell you about this? I want to tell you about this because when you think about creating things now in spaces, it becomes a completely new ballgame, because you can now take these virtual elements and create something. So I'm going to show you a part of a game called Senua's Sacrifice about a female character that's schizophrenic and going through hallucinations. This was done with the help of this company. Did it with the help of the Royal Society for people with schizophrenia, with mental diseases. So it tries to simulate what a character with schizophrenia feels like, from the visual hallucinations that they have to the voices that they hear. And in this game, it's used as a game mechanic. I will show you what I mean through the video.
She can't act. She can still see. She doesn't see. She has she's in
Just to give you context, this character sees like a bridge which is shattered, like a mirror image which is shattered in space. And now what she's trying to do is she's trying to find the right viewpoint to make the shard come into the physical form of the broken bridge. So you're going through the level designed by game designers to figure out exactly which is the viewpoint, which allows you to, in the perfect position, see the part which is broken. And it becomes real.
First, so she knows what she does. There's an illusion. She found a way. There's a way. She can see. She must.
What will you build when you can use digital elements like these? Think about the physical space that you place them in, and then create interactive experiences like these. You can do it as an exhibition. You can do it as a way to engage with your audience. You can do it as a treasure hunt. You can do it for any reason that you want, but this is coming. Like, this is what's going to happen. And because we now have the technology to place digital things into physical space, we will have the ability to create experiences like these. Okay. The reason why we can do this is because we have like incredibly advanced tech, which is now a couple of $100. So for instance, this is the Meta Quest, or in this case, Oculus Quest, but the headset made by Apple, by Meta. And this is how it looks. So right now, these headsets, they look massive. They look like giant pieces, bricks on your face. But as the form factor, as the type of technology that's used to project things into space around you becomes smaller, they will become like regular glasses. And then I want to ask you, once you can wear normal glasses and glasses with spatial computing enabled features, which ones will you choose? Part of that is how do we interact with the spaces around us, and two problems that are currently being solved. One is hand tracking that you've just seen. So each one of these headsets has a set of cameras which is following very closely what your hands are doing. The other part is doing it in space, and this is again a technology that we developed. So one of the things
is the ContourKit hand tracking module that enables real-time tracking of multiple hands simultaneously. By utilizing the capabilities of monocular RGB video image processing, OR can effectively track the 3D pose and geometry of 21 landmarks that define the structure of the hand and fingers, and a root landmark which signifies the palm joint, allowing the calculation of the hand's distance from the camera. With access to these hand landmarks, developers have the freedom to design custom hand gestures or any other input mechanism, bridging the gap between the virtual and the real worlds. By using OR in conjunction with the pose mesh, ContourKit developers have the opportunity to lead the way in a new era of collaborative augmented reality.
So as you can see, you don't need a headset. You can also do it through the phone. But you do need a medium between your eyes and whatever it is that you're trying to experience. Let me just show you this eye tracking and how people, like, how does it look like from the inside, right? Because I think here we have one testimonial by a guy who's a very famous YouTuber doing tech, and here's what he thinks about this the eye tracking.
The thing about this headset, the most impressive thing is the eye tracking. I'm not even kidding. This eye tracking is sick. Move your eyes around the UI, it would immediately highlight and select exactly what you're looking at, no matter how small the target was or what you're looking at. Cruising, you're sailing through everything by just looking at things. And it feels like telepathic. You just look at something and select it. The thing about this.
And here's how it looks like from the inside. I had such a great lead into this, and now I have to break my thoughts. Okay, here's how it looks like here. So all of this is done only with your eyes. So you can see things being highlighted as the guy is using his fingers. At some point, he will try to get, so he looked at, so yeah, so he looked here on top, a falling menu appears, and then with his eyes only, he tracks to what he wants to select and uses his finger to click. So he's looking at this. Now he's looking at number 2, 3. And then he continues to use it. He looks up, he looks up again. Again, a menu appears. So, pardon me, the level of intuition to be able to do this is going to be very, very low. So it needs to feel like it's something that you already understand how to do. It's not going to be like learning how to use a keyboard or a mouse or digital pen. It's literally going to be like you're just going to be looking at stuff and like using your fingers, and it's going to work. And it already is working, actually. All right. So why am I telling you all of this in the end? And like, you know, what did we get out of it? So like what we got out of it is we use some of these principles like transmedia storytelling to talk about our tech in a way which we didn't have a marketing budget for. So a couple of years back, we contacted a science fiction writer. His name is Alastair Reynolds, and he is a hard sci-fi writer. Has anybody here seen Love, Death, and Robots? Probably Elena has. Love, Death, and Robots, the omnibus, like the short cartoons on Netflix, which have like the thematics of sci-fi and future. No. Okay. Well,
sorry, I have to leave, so I'm partially listening.
Okay, that's fine. So very quickly, I'll wrap this up soon. So give me 5 more minutes, guys. And then we have a little bit of time for your questions. So Alastair Reynolds is a sci-fi writer, and he was, before this, a scientist who worked for the European Space Agency. The technology that we built, we came to him and we asked him, would he, my partner, my co-founder went to him and he asked, would you write a science fiction story for us about using augmented reality as a topic? And we would like for you to write one story in which good things happen and one story in which bad things happen. So one dystopian future, one utopian future, and you can write about whatever you like. And he said, okay. And then he wrote 2 stories for us. And the reason why he did that is because we said, look, you have the opportunity to kind of like tailor and think about and influence what people are going to be feeling about this technology. And he apparently liked it enough so that he did it. And we ended up with 2 stories, one about a person who's using AR glasses in a good way, one who uses it in a bad way. And the cool thing about it is we actually then, after he wrote the stories, we made a video about it. We made an AI animated video. We made a podcast. We made an audio version of it. We distributed it along different kinds of channels. We did the transmedia storytelling to make sure that we can hit different targets with this story of ours. And the reason why we wanted to do it is because we didn't have a massive marketing budget, but we knew that the right people, the people who are thinking about this future, who are maybe listening in to what the science fiction authors are saying, who are thinking about what the thought leaders are saying, like the people in the space, the engineers, the visionaries, like what are they talking about? And then we can capture part of that attention and bring it to our company. So this was a marketing technique. It was a way for us to utilize with very small, I mean, obviously this is not just like paying for ads on Facebook or Instagram. It took a while to negotiate this, and you know, we courted Alastair quite a long time, but he was in the end very happy to write these stories for us. And once he did, we started reaching out to people, leaders in the field with this story of ours. And it worked. And we got a lot of interest from quite a few important people. And it showed that this is a model that works, you know, multiple times. It worked for us to build the narrative and think about it in a way where like we can utilize like less of our funding and get greater results, right? If you have a compelling story, people will listen. And the thing about this, make no mistake, that this technology is a transformative technology in a way which no technology has been ever before. So that transformative technology needs to have a transformative narrative to carry it to the people so that people understand, emotionally connect, and take it with them and remember, right? And this is something that hopefully you will be able to do as well after this, after these exercises that we prepared for you and the rest of the course that you're doing. Finally, we have this massive thing, which is how do you guys circle this using spatial computing, thinking about social 3D experiences, and also digital assets. This is unfortunately something that I can't tell you. This is something you need to figure out by yourselves. But hopefully with the tools you have, you will be able to. And another thing, in the very end, the one thing that I wanted to ask you is, do you guys use ChatGPT for your work or any kind of AI?
I use it, yeah.
Yes.
And I use AI for art. I use Stability AI, Dream Studio, because I downloaded, but I didn't have the graphic, the NVIDIA graphic. So I had Intel, so it was too slow. I use ChatGPT to help me think, to help me. I use it to translate my book. My book is a nonfiction. It's about the new longevity, the second half of life, and the need to reinvent ourselves after retirement. So I use it for text. I use it for structuring my thoughts. But it's like an assistant, someone that helps me. But I have to check everything.
Yeah, an assistant.
Yeah, assistant. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's great. The reason why I'm asking is because usually when people tell me about AI, and a lot of artists have this resistance towards using AI, and I completely understand, especially when we're talking about using data sets which are trained on artists who didn't agree to have their work used, right? This is a massive problem. However, on the other hand, I believe that a lot of the tasks that we think AI can do are not actually creative because we still need critical thinking and experience, and the critical thinking and, you know, figuring out that something is using AI or was generated by AI comes from like this core experience of ours because we've done it for a long time. So we can recognize that the text is generated. We can see the visual effect of AI being used. So I think that humans are incredibly good like sorting algorithms when it comes to noticing something that's strange. So I feel like we already have like a second pair of eyes to understand that something is using AI. However, I love the fact that Sonia said that it's like an assistant. I usually say that it's like an intern because I have a company, so I think about it in those terms. But basically, what AI is a really, really hardworking, really stupid intern. If you give it a task, it's going to try its hardest.
ChatGPT is like an assistant, and AI I use for art. I would say it's like a collaborator. Because I use it to take me to places where I wouldn't go by myself, to surprise me, to give me surprises. And I feed with my digital collages and prompts, and I post curate it to take me to new directions. So that's what I do. But I understand there's a lot of prejudice. This week I was in a meetup here in Berlin, from the Women in AI meetup. It was the topic was, is AI killing creativity? And there was a lot of discussion about it. People don't consider work done with AI as art. And I don't agree. I don't agree.
I had a discussion with a friend a couple of hours ago. I had a discussion with a friend on via messages, and he said I should include AI in this class. And I said, like, well, it's not technically the thing that I should add. And he said, like, look, he says, ChatGPT today can help you to start writing a book and a screenplay and a game design document. You can help you can use it for research, like Perplexity AI. It can help you make videos. Design is going to be very, very tightly connected with AI. Plus, in games and in movies, there are more and more AI characters, even AI NPCs, non-player characters. So to think about narrative without adding the context of AI is like trying to think about math without using a computer.
Yeah, I agree with him.
And I love that. And I love that. And I think that as long as you think about AI as a tool to help you get started, to explore, to take you, as Sonia said, to go to places that you've never been before, I think it's a useful tool. But I don't think it will ever really replace the thing that all of us humans do, and that is to have something to say. And that comes from experience. And that's why you guys are the ones who should do that for all of the rest of us. You guys are artists. Take this knowledge, take these skills, think about it, contact us, contact Flux, contact me directly. If you want to talk about projects, if you want to think about doing something, I would be very happy to help you as long as well as the rest of the team. And this is how I end my class. We have another 8 minutes. I would love to hear questions, suggestions, anything that you want to talk about until we finish.
Yeah, I want to thank you. It was incredible, your class. I really enjoyed it. And yours and Base yesterday was really took it to another level. Thank you.
Check. Czekaj. Zrobisz?
Okay, Damir, really quickly, thank you so much. This is this was like an expansion of my ideas and some worlds. So this gave me some food for thought. Yeah. And yeah, thanks. That's the most important thing that I want to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to say the thing about the eye movement.
Eye tracking.
I think it will be very useful for, of course, for gaming and stuff like this. But I think it will be very useful for immobile people or people who have this who can't move or have some serious sickness, illness, and so there's another human objective here. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it's really, I'm really happy to hear that, because there will be companies, there will be products which are going to try to use this in the same way that they are taking our attention by using social media. And one of the best and most subversive and most successful ways to fight that is using art, because art expresses the things that we really feel collectively. It's a way for us to kind of tap into what it is that's really going on. And in the past it worked. I don't think it's going to change, but like, you guys got to learn stuff, you got to try new things, you got to figure out what's going to work for people in the future. And like, you can use storytelling, you can use the ideas from the environment design, game design, and immersive design that we talked about here, and figure out how to do this, because there's no playbook and it still doesn't exist. And actually, even though there's a lot of stuff happening, nothing is what we call in tech the killer app, meaning there is not one new application of this technology that everybody wants to use. So why not build it? Why not you? Why wouldn't it be you?
Yeah. And if I can just say quickly, like this kind of immersive experiences you didn't mention, but maybe it's also a part of this, like 3D mapping and shows which, like, for example, I went to the show in the planetarium. Like planetarium was like, it was the whole immersive experience. We were all down and there was
a huge circular
map. Yeah, like in the dome. So the images were projected on the planetarium. So it was like kind of it was artistic. Yeah, it was artistic show. It wasn't something commercial, but yeah, that's also very interesting, maybe.
It is, and this is also like, you know, this is definitely using these principles of immersive design. I think that like all of these things, it's kind of like this, right? Like we're in this moment in time where all of these things are kind of separate, but they're not really separate. Like the thing that's going to really hit us the most is when all of these things combine somehow, and no one knows what that's going to be. Like there is no way for us to understand what the tech requirements are or the things that need the thing, you know, the sequence of events that needs to happen for us to kind of all be immersed in this, like you know, like in reading a book, which is also an immersive experience in a different way, right? So like once we know that, like it's going to really change how we think about reality, how we interact with things, with other people. And like we need to build it. Like we don't know what it is. We genuinely don't have any idea what it is. So it's like it's on the artists and the scientists and the creatives and the people who are always doing this when something new, when they feel something new in like the meta and like the world. And that's you guys. So explore, think, check this out. You have this awesome course. If you guys are interested in doing a course about AI, we can definitely do something together. It's a new thing. I don't know if I'm overstepping. Marta is not here. Magda is not here. Oh, she is here. Magda, maybe you want to say something about it.
About what part? Which part?
Well, about, you know, potentially some new programs and other things based on the feedback of the people here and what do they need and what.
Yeah, so they are enrolled in the whole Flux project lasts till January 2026. So this is just, let's say, the first part when where they will learn the basics of blockchain, how to create an NFT. They will also have a theoretical and practical exam that will come later in November and December. So they will actually have a chance to create their own NFT and mint it on Endemic App, and also to qualify for exhibiting during 2025 on exhibitions in Ljubljana, Milan, and and Labin in Istria, Labin Industrial Biennale. So listening to all of you during the past few days, I see that we still have some space maybe for deeper conversations regarding some topics. But this is something when we created the academy, we actually weren't aware what to expect, because we're combining two different worlds, at least from my point of view. So I'm deep into blockchain fintech technologies. So we actually didn't know what to expect from this artistic part of the society and their knowledge when it comes to new technologies. But now, after listening to all of you for the past 5 days, we have also gained some insight, and from our side, we can say that we are going to send you, after we finish with the NFT seminars that are going to also be for the in the next 2 weeks, we are going to send you forms with where we would like you to share the feedback, and we can also suggest some interesting topics where we can follow up. So we can, yeah, definitely create more workshops. The first one that pops into my mind is that the Chat GPT one, where Damir is also really experienced, as he already is involved into education about Chat GPT. So maybe we can we can figure out to maybe make another 2-hour workshop about how to use ChatGPT. This is something where I also see value for my part of view, although I'm using ChatGPT, but I'm sure that I'm not using like that I'm not using it in the full potential. So, but we will get back to you as we still have time. We have all your contacts. We have the Telegram chat, the emails. Zara is here. She's going to keep you updated with everything. And also, if you see that there's something where you would like to gain more knowledge, a topic that we maybe didn't discuss enough, please feel free to write it in the Telegram chat. And Damir, you were amazing. Also, you and Bey were like really nicely complementing each other and both topics. I think that it was also really interesting for me, although I'm not an artist. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to be involved. I'm really glad that you guys think this is interesting. And please, if you need anything, get back to me. And let's talk. Let's talk about building something, making something. I would love to. Thank you, Magda, for inviting me, and thank you everyone for being so patient for 3 hours.
Thanks, Damir.
Bye.